Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I am Braden Butkovich here with Dominic Finazzo. We are the owners and founders of Bravo Delta Simulation. Today we'll be talking about our approach towards making simulation modeling accessible. I'd like to hand out a big thank you to the AnyLogic team for putting this on and giving us a chance, really a platform to discuss our approach towards this. Extra big thank you to Jason, Arash, and Julia for really believing in us and giving us the confidence to get up here and present. So a quick overview of what we're going to be going over today. A little bit about our story, who we are at Bravo Delta, our approach towards modeling, and how we think we stand out in the industry, and then why we love AnyLogic, and then we'll be doing a little deep dive into one of the models that we presented specifically for Mako International.
So moving on to our story, Brady and Dominic, right? Lifelong friends. I've known this guy since we were in diapers. So our introduction to AnyLogic, we basically went through 3 or 4 different simulation tools. We discovered AnyLogic and instantly fell in love with just the amount of documentation, the ability of just to Google something and find, hey, we can do this. Bravo Delta, we were founded in 2023, January 1st. And we like to say we're not really your traditional simulation modelers. Neither one of us has a PhD in simulation modeling. Obviously, we're kind of a different breed of simulation modelers per se. So moving to our approach of modeling, we're in a room full of AnyLogic users. I guarantee you, show of hands, how many of us have played video games? Really, that's it? I know more of you have. So when we envision modeling, we think of building a video game representation of someone's business or manufacturing process. So, what do we do in video games? We level up, right? Well, why aren't we leveling up people's businesses? So that sort of all of those what-if questions that simulation can answer, and how will those decisions affect my business? How will those decisions affect my manufacturing process? And we've also noticed that simulation modeling is significantly underutilized in industry. So, a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies, they're all using simulation modeling. They're getting the benefits of it already. But there's so many different businesses out there that have not even heard of simulation modeling.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you tell someone, oh yeah, I'm a simulation modeler. They give you that look like, oh, what is that? Or, oh, that sounds really technical and hard. By making simulation modeling accessible, our goal is to make it a household name, household terminology to where everyone knows that, oh yeah, we're doing simulation modeling in our business to get the most out of our people, out of our manufacturing process, whatever it may be, and really just trying to maximize that growth. So why do we love AnyLogic, and why is AnyLogic the software that we chose to sort of chase this dream? First off, it's the user friendliness of it. Like Dominic said, we started as a company at the beginning of the year. We didn't put hands on AnyLogic until the 3rd quarter of last year. And within a little bit of time of playing with the sample version of the software, and then shout out to Simwell for the great AnyLogic in 3-day course. Immediately we became a company and started helping our clients, and we're driving growth and change right away. So really just the speed at which you can learn it, and every time we sit down to do a model, there's nothing stopping us from trying something new, learning new aspects of AnyLogic, or just different ways it can be applied. On top of that, just the multi-method modeling, there's not a business operation or flow that we can't solve with AnyLogic. Doesn't matter who our customer is, what their problem is, we can do it in AnyLogic. And then finally, our favorite aspect of it is just the support. So first, coming from the AnyLogic team, the data definitions within it, the accessibility on the website, oh, what does this block do? How do I use this function? Guarantee it's on the AnyLogic website or within the software. And then on top of that, just the community support. Look at us all here. We're all here sharing our ideas about how we use AnyLogic, how we're impacting our own respective industries with it. You can't beat it. And then I'm sure all of you have run into some little questions. How do I do this in AnyLogic? Google, how do I do XYZ in AnyLogic? Boom, Stack Overflow. You're probably looking at a great answer from Benjamin Schumann right there. Come on, we've all been there. So it's really just such a fantastic community, and it was a no-brainer to use AnyLogic.
So moving into sort of the simulation model we did for Mako International, a little bit of background on them. They're a Tier 1 automotive supplier headquartered in Sterling Heights, Michigan, primarily focused on injection molding, but also some assembly processes. So why did they decide to use simulation modeling? We heard at a presentation yesterday, using Excel to model things is not always the best, and that is what they were doing. And it turns out Excel just couldn't give them what they were looking for. So we came in and said, hey, what about AnyLogic? We can simulate that, these problems, figure out exactly what you're looking for, and let's do it.
All right, so defining the problem. So what you're looking at here is 3 different parts, each with a 1 and 2 that Mako had to produce. So specifically for A, 1 and 2, Mako needed to produce 240,000 volume at the end of the year, 50,000 each of Bravo 1 and 2, and 100,000 each of Charlie 1 and 2. So there's 2 different processes that each one of these parts had to go through. So on the left side of the schematic is what we're calling process 1. The right side is process 2. I apologize, we had to put some blocks over everything just to protect Mako's proprietary information, but we'll talk through that as best as we can. So starting off, for example, take the part Bravo 1, for example. In process 1, it can go through the first and the third machine, and then on process 2, it can go through the third and the fifth. That's all it can go through. So what you have here is, as Dominic said, a big multivariate problem that you can't really model in Excel with a part going through stage 1, then going through stage 2. There's different process times for each one of these processes. And then on top of that, there's tool changeover occurring. So especially look at block 3 for process 1. Switching from A1 to B1 to C1, there's downtime, there's tool changeover. And then the schedules that each one of these was running was different as well. So process 1 was running 2 10-hour shifts a day, 5 days a week. And process 2 was running 3 8-hour shifts, 6 days a week. So now you have to factor in the work in process, inventory, and really just, Mako needed to prove that at the end of the year, they would be able to reach these volume targets for their customer and make sure that they're utilizing their equipment in the most efficient way possible. And on top of that, at the time that we first built this simulation, they didn't have any of these tools or machines in place yet. So was what management, what they were expecting to order, was that going to be enough to fulfill their needs? We used simulation to prove that.
So moving into the initial steps with Mako as our client, we define the requirements for the simulation model. Do you want to see this? Do you want this animated, et cetera? The data acquisition, so by going down that path and saying, what do you want to see? What are you looking for? We could determine what data was super pertinent to the model and what data we really didn't need. So after that, we initially built the model as simple as possible, delivered it, said walk through the logical process steps that we modeled, and then we moved into this sort of slide. So then we moved into that continuous delivery, continuous integration environment with them, where after we delivered that model, we all agreed on the logic. They asked, hey, can we add scrap rates? Hey, can we add downtime probabilities? What about inventory monitoring? Does anyone in here have any automotive background? So I see 2 hands. So in automotive, having that inventory monitoring and 3 days on hand of inventory to ship to your customer is super pertinent. Something that maybe other industries aren't as pertinent with, but after we implemented those changes, we verified model accuracy again with them, walked through them with their manufacturing engineering team, and then we moved forward with it, delivered it, and now we're here.
So a little bit about what this model looks like. So right here is the main 3D view. Again, apologize, we had to drop some blocks over it to protect Mako's information, but our goal with making modeling accessible is to give management something that's not scary to look at. We didn't want to throw a bunch of technical stuff in their face that they might not be familiar with. So the foundation of our model, and at least the 3D representation of it, was underneath all this, their CAD layout of the plant floor. So there's kind of twofold benefit both for us and for the client. So in terms of Mako, this CAD schematic is something they were already grossly familiar with. They were using it for all of their floor planning, for what they were at least envisioning the material flow and process management would look like. So we just brought that to life to try and give them that video game-like representation of their manufacturing floor. And really, we decided this was just the easiest way to do it because it's extremely easy within AnyLogic to just import the file and then set your scale. And now all of our space markup, all of our 3D drawings are exactly to scale. Everything looks and works just like it is going to in real life eventually. Now, some of the results. As Dominic mentioned, there were some other parameters that they ended up looking for, but Here's the main meat and potatoes of it right here. Mako wanted to know, would they be able to meet their customers' volume requirements? This right here proves that. Run the model for a year, and guess what? We hit our targets for A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. The schedule that we created proved to Mako that yes, with the machinery that they were planning to buy, with the parameters that they anticipated, they would in fact be able to meet their customers' demands. Everything else, all the additional parameters and variables that we pulled out of it, all great added information, but this is what it's all about.
Absolutely. So moving on to the outcome of the Mako simulation model. So they're currently using our created schedule from AnyLogic. So we made the simulation, we determined what parts do we need to schedule on what lines, what process. So they're using that today, which is really awesome. And then we also verified the feasibility of their design manufacturing process. So it's very easy to say, we need this much equipment, this many people. When you're quoting something, when you're making, we haven't even ordered equipment yet, right? So to have a simulation model to back that up and say, okay, yes, that design manufacturing process is perfect, it will do what we intended to, is super, super powerful. And we also displayed the fluctuation of WIP inventory or work in progress inventory due to the fact that process 1 and process 2 had different cycle times. And they also had a proof of concept in place for their customer. So that was super beneficial for them to be able to say, hey, look, we designed this manufacturing process around what you guys are looking for, and we now have a simulation model to prove that.
Well, that's all we got for you, kind of short and sweet, but do we have any questions?
Great presentation, thank you. You mentioned that they're using the schedule that you guys created. Was it just some heuristic? Did you test different schedules or use some optimization engine? How did you get to create that schedule?
Yeah, so we took the annual volumes and we basically divided by the manufacturing time. So we know that in a week there's X amount of manufacturing time, and this is how long it takes to make one of those parts. So we use that in Excel, believe it or not, to basically determine, hey, this is how long this part needs to run this week, this is how long this one does, this is how long this one does. So they are using that schedule right now.
So what you created, is that the order in which they'll actually execute it? So there's no like setup time configuration or moving from one part to another actually?
There is a setup configuration in there, right? So there's a downtime probability for tool changeover. So hopefully does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, okay, thanks.
So I wanted to know, what are the hard skills that you brought into this venture, Bravo Delta? Meaning that I have a number of like the positions that you held previously, but what are the hard skills that you built so that within a 9 months or 10 months framework, you are able to get to a position where you have a customer and you're delivering the services in terms of what they need?
Great question, thank you. So the question was, what type of hard skills did we bring from our different backgrounds? So just to reiterate, my background, when I was active duty Air Force, I was an intelligence operator, and I'm currently an intelligence analyst for the Air National Guard. And then Dominic is a mechanical engineer with a background in the automotive industry. So on this one, we did really leverage Dominic's background, more so than mine, just because he does have that background in automotive manufacturing, which Mako is a part of. And so really his understanding in the manufacturing process and how to create the most simple model to meet all of these goals that Mako had was really the biggest thing that we brought.
Yeah, I think another thing of like the hard skills of, running a business, getting clients, it really comes down to the people skills, right? You have to be able to contact people and not be scared of that rejection, right? Not everyone's they're not always going to say yes, right? They might tell you to get lost every once in a while. So to kind of keep rolling with that and have that background and sort of, I grew up, my family owned an auto repair business, so I was surrounded by my father as a business owner growing up, so I think that kind of really inspired me to start a business. So does that?
Thank you. Hey, I'm right in front of you. Hi. Question off of Jacobens. Have you followed up with a client, and is the schedule working?
Yes. So we followed up, and the design schedule is meeting their production requirements.
How long has it been implemented?
Huh?
How long has it?
Probably six months about, I'd say. So 6 months later, it is still functioning as intended.
That's awesome.
Meeting all their goals and just as anticipated.
Hey guys, I just want to say bravo to both of you. I think everybody in this room is probably incredibly impressed with your youth, how fast you got into the industry, how professional you came across here on the stage today. So just bravo to both of you, really.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. That really means a lot. We really were extremely nervous to get up here and present, going through this whole process. Like, do we deserve to be up here? We haven't even been a company for a year yet, but I mean, really just the great push we got from Jason, Julia, Rosh, and all of our friends and family that have been supporting us on this journey. The clients we've helped out. It's a fantastic community, and we're happy to be a part of it. So thank you.
Great, but now you got to follow up. So you guys did a really nice job of casting a vision on kind of like why isn't this industry bigger, right? And you said you had some ideas. Now that you've got a successful project under your belt, what do you guys think is important to like scaling the simulation industry?
So the question was, what do we think is important to scaling the simulation industry? And I think part of it is kind of like I touched on earlier, is making simulation modeling a household concept. Right now you can look at the AnyLogic website and see all the Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies that are using AnyLogic, and the ones that aren't are probably using some other simulation software. But our goal is to try and get some of the smaller companies involved as well. So specifically in automotive, which is an industry that we hold very near and dear, both of our families, supporting us because of the automotive industry with Dom's family in the automotive repair, and a bunch of my family working for General Motors and Ford and some of the other big three in Detroit. So we don't want just the big guys on top getting all that benefit. We want to go and help out the tier 1 suppliers, the tier 2 suppliers, the tier 3 suppliers. There's no reason that they all can't be reaping these same rewards that the top companies are, and really just going out there and showing that you don't always need these super technical, high-level models. Just a simple model can drive a lot of growth and change. And so that's what we're trying to get after there, and that's just the start. So.
I had a similar question. You talked about making this accessible, and you're talking about working with, smaller suppliers, probably companies that don't have the same level of sophistication around analytics and data and things like this. Did you find it challenging to talk to them about using a model like this that they probably haven't encountered before, or they almost certainly don't use themselves? Were there any challenges making them comfortable with it and making it accessible to them?
So the question was there, do we find any challenges approaching some of the smaller companies and trying to show how simulation can be accessible? And it is, it's scary for some of them to take this big investment in, we've always used Excel, or we've always just done some flow charts and got it done. Why do we need AnyLogic, or why do we need simulation modeling? But AnyLogic actually has a fantastic solution for that. All of the demo models, guarantee there's almost one to apply towards any business out there. And just showing them like, hey, here's what AnyLogic can do. Now envision your factory running with a model like this. Or imagine your restaurant operating just like this. And now you have that ability to, play the model like a video game. Oh, what if we did hire that extra guy for third shift? What if we got a couple more forklifts? And helping, put that idea in their mind that they need AnyLogic, they need simulation modeling to realize their full potential as a company, or to solve, whatever specific problems giving them trouble.
Absolutely, and building on that, I think there is always some companies do lack that data analytics to provide a functioning simulation, and not even just a digital twin, just a simulation model as a whole. But I think that's probably 80% of simulation, right? Is getting the data and correcting it, cleaning it, cleansing it, and making sure that they understand. And we find that it's easier to communicate with a client that says, hey, why are we not doing data analytics? Well, we never did before. But when they see a simulation model, that kind of piques their interest in data analytics. So they realize, whoa, we're missing out on simulation modeling because we're not doing data analytics. So it's kind of a twofold problem, but they kind of solve each other.
If there's no more questions, thank you so much again. It's been an honor to be here, and looking forward to the rest of the presentations.
And thank you to the AnyLogic crew and Mako International for giving us the opportunity to present to you guys. It's been a whirlwind. It's been great.